Hi, my name is Electa Tritch. I'm a professional archaeologist, and we're here at the Dwight Derby House in Medfield to give you a chance to tour the workings of an archaeological excavation in process. When the time has come to actually start work on a site, the first thing that needs to be done is to establish a datum point, and from there to lay out an excavation grid for any units or pits that will be dug on the site. From the initial datum point, a north-south line will be laid out using a surveyor's instrument called a transit, and then a grid of east-west and north-south lines will be established. Every excavation square will be set within this grid. So from then on, every tiny artifact, every speck of dirt can be measured exactly on a plan of the property. It's essential to do this kind of fine measuring so that in the future, if another researcher came to the site, he would be able to replicate what the archaeologist has done. The excavation units that you have chosen to work on need to be plotted on a plan of the entire property. This is done on graph paper, and you end up with a map of squares, rectangles, trenches throughout the yard of the property. Each excavation square is usually identified by its southeast corner, the number of meters away from the datum point that is to the north or south and to the east or west. So for instance, a square might be named N115, north 115 meters, E 94.5, east 94.5 meters from that original datum point. When it comes time to dig, the first step is removing the overburden, the leaves that have accumulated in woodland settings, or the sod and grass on the top of your square. This is done usually with a shovel after surface collecting whatever treasures you may find on the top. Following that, excavation proceeds down in very shallow stages using either a flat-ended shovel or a mason's trowel. Always the side, never the point. Each layer or level is removed carefully, and as it's removed, the dirt is thrown into a screen and sifted to remove any artifacts that might have been missed in the process of shoveling or troweling. Professional archaeologists usually work in teams of two. They form a system of checks and balances with each other. One will shovel or trowel, the other will do the sifting. The process is fast and very efficient. The process of removing levels of soil in a pit slows down considerably when you think you've found an artifact. That's the point at which you stop, take a deep breath, and pull out your trowel and your whisk broom. It's very important that artifacts remain where they're found in a pit until they're completely exposed and the area around the artifact itself is cleaned up as well. Recording is perhaps the single most significant thing that an archaeologist does in the process of his excavation. Shoveling stops, the pit is cleared. If there is an artifact or a change in soil color, it is brushed, cleaned as much as possible. The item or feature is photographed and mapped within the excavation unit to show exactly how large it is and where it is in association with other measurement points. Everyone is familiar with the idea of artifacts, but features are perhaps the more important but much more subtle element of field archaeology. Features are the archaeological evidence that cannot be removed from the ground without destroying them. Features can be anything as obvious as a buried line of stones, to something as subtle as a change in the color of the soil. But each feature is an indication of activity that went on at the site at some point in its past. Taking the information that has been accumulated from one pit and relating it to the information from another about soil changes, about features, about artifacts, and their relationships to each other. That overview is the history of the site that you have derived from digging into its soil. As you can see from our time at this site, there are a lot of sophisticated procedures and techniques used in conducting an archaeological excavation. I would warn you and your students to use extreme caution in any work that you do in the field. Remember that anytime you dig into the ground, you can't replace what you've taken out. So in the process of gaining information, you destroy information at the same time.